Now let's open our app-screen.css, which you'll find inside of the CSS folder. We are going to start with the body tag. And for the body tag, we are going to put padding of 30 pixels from the top and the bottom, and 0 on left and right. Then if we go for the warning class, which we've already applied to one of our elements, color will simply be 900, which is this kind of dark red, as you can see here on the left hand side. Then we go for the span label, which is basically the element with these notifications, which we've created 3 of them. We're going to have padding bottom 1 EM. Then we're gonna go for display block. And the last thing will be font size, which we're going to reduce to 0.8 EM. After this, we're going to have the container items, which we haven't created on the page yet, but we're going to have it basically wrapping all of the items which are existing in a database, basically, which you've added earlier. So this container will have a margin of 0, padding of 0 as well on all 4 sides, and then list style, we're going to make it none. Then I'm just going to create a few new lines so you can clearly see what I'm typing here. Then we go for items again, this time raw inside of these items, and the raw will have padding of 10 pixels top and bottom, 0 on left and right, and then border bottom will be dashed 1 pixel, this light gray, so AAA. There we go. This is, obviously you can't see much here on the recording, but this is pretty much light gray color here. Okay, next thing will be in items, raw and input, which will basically be a checkbox, which we'll use to check the items that we have already completed. This one will have margin bottom of 0. That's the only property we're going to be setting here. Then we go for items, raw, done. As you can see now, if I scroll up, we've got done next to raw, because these 2 classes will be basically attached to the same element. It's not done within the raw container, it's the same container as raw, that's why it's all together. Okay, and this one will have background color of EEE, which is again light gray, lighter than this AAA. Then we have font style will be italic. And the last thing here will be color, which will be of light gray, AAA again. And the last item inside of our app screen CSS will be FLR, which is this class which we've already used to float the buttons to the right. So simply float right. And that's everything inside of the app screen.css. We can now close this file. If you preview our page in a browser, refresh it, you can see that these buttons have now shifted to the right. As you can see, these items also, each one is on its own line. As you can see, warning, last one which had this warning class, also has the color changed to red now. Obviously, they are on their own lines now because we've set the display for them to block. That's why they are all, rather than being in line, they are now blocks, obviously. That's pretty much ready. But one thing before we finish this video, if we go back to our editor, let's straight away do our print CSS as well, so we don't have to go through this later on. And inside of our app print.css, we're going to start with the body. And body will have font family set to Arial, sans serif, really kind of basic font, obviously, which is installed on practically any machine. Then we have font size, which will be 14 pixels. Then after the body tag, we're going for our form. So add form. We don't want to display the form which we are actually using for adding records. We only want the list of records which we've added. So simply display none. Then we go for items, wrapper, and this one will have again margin and padding set to null. And then we go for list style, also none. If I create a few new lines. Okay, next it's items and raw element. And this one will have width of 100%, padding of 5 pixels from top and right and bottom, and 0 on left and right. Then we have border bottom dashed 1 pixel AAA for this light gray, as we've done in our screen version of the style sheet as well, and then floating to the left. Next item will be items raw done. And now items raw done, and we also actually going to put star here because we want to apply this to all of the elements inside of this specific element. So raw element with the class raw and done. And because print CSS does not recognize background color, obviously we're not bothered with the background color, but we have to distinguish between the items which are completed and the ones which aren't. So font style, it's going to be italic as we had in our screen version, but we're also going to add text. Decoration, we are going to put the line through. So it's clear that this item is already done. It's crossed on the list, obviously, so that indicates that it's completed. Okay, next one will be items. We're going for raw. And then for inside of this container, we have another container with the class columns. And this one will simply have float left. Then we go for items and the item with the class item name. One of the elements. It will be the width of this element will be 80%. Then if I scroll up a little bit, we have items and we have item name, and then we have input. Margin bottom will be 0, which is basically this checkbox which we're going to have. And then we have items, item QTY for quantity. This item will be width of 10%. Then we have items, item type, and this one will be width of 10%. We are defining this even though we are using foundation, but if we open our index.html and scroll right to the top, you can see the foundation files we specified that they only need to be used on screen, basically media equals screen. So obviously this won't work within the print version. The only one actually here for media we should do print rather than screen. Good that I've checked. Basically our app print applies to the print. This is the only style sheet that will apply to the print version of our document. So if we now save the file, going back to our app print.css, that's pretty much everything. So we can now save and close both of the files and move to the next video.